Hello and welcome to More Than a Lumpy Jumper, the podcast where we talk leadership, life and lessons learned, often the hard way. This season we're journeying around the wheel of life, a simple but powerful coaching tool that helps us notice the different parts of life that shape our sense of balance. Notice when we're thriving, where we're stretched thin and where small shifts can make a big difference. And our guests today are Katie McShane and Elaine Moynihan, founders of Wisewater, a social enterprise based in Cork, Ireland, that delivers well-being and water workshops to schools, workplaces and community groups. Now, whilst they are both lovers of water, they are also much more. Photographers, writers, sound healers, social scientists, to name but a few, but we'll leave them to introduce themselves further. Through Wisewater, they are now on a mission to help people to rediscover their relationship with water, strengthening self-care and sparking environmental stewardship. So let's dive into this episode. See what I did there? Being in a place, where we'll explore how our environments, natural and built, shape who we are and how we live in balance. Ladies,
Yay.
Hello!
Welcome.
Diving in, splashing on over. Hello. Thank you for the intro.
I am so corny, it really hurts. But, let's see if we can actually get much more into that. Ladies, Bridget was telling you before we just started the recording about that there was only just a little snippet of who you really are before we actually get started. And so this is your opportunities to introduce yourselves to our listeners in the best way possible, with no job titles, but more about who you really are as people, as well as huge sea dwellers by the sounds of things. But tell us more.
Right. Shall I kick first? Go. So I'm Elaine. Without the title, I'll throw it in there anyway. Co-founder of Wisewater Academy. I love surfing, but also wiping out. Just love being in the sea. I'm a mom of 2 kids. That definitely doesn't define me. I love having fun. Probably not enough of it at the moment. Knee sliding is a thing I do. Don't know. I love to knee slide at parties. I think it's So
it's damaged her knee.
It's damaged
just
my
to
knee.
Say after years of knee sliding.
Yeah, it's just
You need knee pads.
I do, and I like to let my spirit lead as opposed to, I suppose, physical body. I think there's a lot in that. But in general, I would say I'm happiest by water, by the sea, and surrounded by good friends and family.
Fab.
Yeah, that's a great introduction. I'm Katie, and live here by the sea. I am very blessed to live right on the ocean, and massive lover of all forms of water, wells, rivers, showers, you name it, just water in its essence. Yeah, it just fascinates me. I just think it's the most incredible substance that interconnects us all. So water has just been part of learning how to keep myself well and sane and be in my senses in such a full life living, as well as, of course, dear friends. Sound healing has helped me to understand our receptive nature. So that is because we are water, we receive sound. And I would really say that exploring how sound and resonance affects the human body actually opened me up to water and its magical properties. So, yeah. Awesome.
Thank you.
How
That's
did you
brilliant.
two meet?
It was, I crazily got pregnant at age 25. And my sister Sinead was in a yoga course with Katie. That's how we met. And Sinead also, she's my older sister. She says I rob her friends, but I don't know. I mean, that could be just maybe I'm the better friend, you could divide.
That's hilarious. Because I met you through Sinead.
Yeah, she's very good, brilliant connector. She is
a bridge.
And I don't think I robbed them. I think we do share a lot of friend groups actually, but that's how myself and Katie met. So when I was 25 and pregnant actually, and
it. My first day meeting Sinead, and she was like first day of yoga teacher training, and we were all introducing ourselves, and when Sinead introduced herself, she shared that her sister just found out she was pregnant, and while she was sharing it, the love that she felt for Elaine just poured out of her, so she was like yeah, I was just like, who is this woman? So instantly it was like, yeah, I love Sinead. And then I met Elaine. Of course, I was like, yes, these are my sisters, So it's like finding your tribe, isn't it? When you find that circle of support and you share so much, it's just amazing, the good times and the bad. Yeah.
There's one thing that I have to throw in here. I love your ideas about knee sliding, because this is the first tangent. Bridget does it as well, but I just have to get in there first, because I really injured myself when somebody tried to convince me to do a slut drop. It was the worst thing I have ever done in my life, and I'd only just had a knee op at the time, and then it's like, I really shouldn't have done that. So just throwing that in for good measure. But there is a segue, because water, of course, really helped in terms of the healing process for my knees. So there is a sort of hint to that. But I'm just wondering, in terms of yours two meeting, whether the water piece was already there, or whether that's evolved together.
So the passion of water was that, like, I did a lot of traveling pre the pregnancy in 25, and I think that's where I always, like, no matter where I traveled, I wanted to be close to the sea. That's my home place. That's where I feel, myself. So definitely sea and road tripping by beach and all of that was always there. And I suppose for you lived in the countryside.
I was a river swimmer, and I really went on a massive, like, discovering the heritage of Ireland, and meeting people and being in very special water places, which I love, that correlation of bodies of water and us as water bodies, and that like, meeting a water body is like meeting a place, and people and everything. It's like there's a story when you go to a water body that connects you to the culture, the past as well as the present, which is really something very, very special.
And I suppose that's how it grew from that. Katie went to college to do more kind of heritage and culture and that, and you wanted to put together interviewing people who are working with water around Ireland. And then I was like, love road trips, and I have a camera and I'm a photographer background. So that was our first, I suppose that's where the Wise Water and the joining of both of our passion for water and connection to water began on that kind of, we travelled around Ireland, and, marine biologists, people minding wells, surfers, artists, like a whole...
Even dancers, people who dance with water, so it was in the middle of our road trip, we were like, what is this? It's not just that the water is wise itself. It's got so much to teach us, but it's also the people who are aware of how important water is, have a wisdom that comes through them, and then a way of expressing it that's really multifaceted, So it's like, and that's a hope-filled story. So it began like, okay, we'll make these videos to inspire people, but then it began like, actually, the kids need to hear this. The kids need hope. Yeah. In a time when it's such a fear-based culture we're in, and because we are water, it's like such an instant way of bringing us into ourselves and connecting with, environment around us.
I'm going to steal my own quote from the end, because this is the perfect time to do it. So one of the other things is that I always close with a quote. I get slightly anally retentive about the whole thing, but what we just found I know, but what Bridge has found this season is that I keep sort of like almost sabotaging myself by either saying it or allowing other people to say something. But this just seems the most pertinent time to say it. A book I've read, Braiding Sweet.
Oh my God, Katie's just finished it.
I'm reading it over and over.
Isn't it? Oh my God, it's so beautiful. And of course, the quote there from Kimmer is, maybe there is no such thing as rain. There are only raindrops, each with its own story. Yes. And so what you're saying about the stories for everybody about water, you've got your own and then captured everybody else's, either in a visual or with what they're actually telling you. I'm wondering if you've got favourite stories, either of your own or that other people have told you that you could share.
Of working with water,
or their relationship with water. This whole thing about been akin with their environment. I think that it's which comes first, because the other thing that, God, I'm throwing all sorts in here now, but I am a somatic coach, and I trained with Richard Strozzi Heckler in the States. But the way that he used to have us introduce ourselves was who we were, where we were from, and what was our nearest water source.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so that so that it starts the narrative, and one of the things that they say with the somatic work is that the things that shape us, one of the things is our landscape, our environment, which of course of which water is one of them. And so there is that whole thing is that people are the water story that they find themselves in, or as a result of getting close to water, they become a news story. And I'm just wondering if there's any resonance with that.
Oh, definitely there is, yeah. And in particular, story, I don't have one that's jumping. Do you? That like, there's so many, I suppose. Like even myself and Katie did another where we went to the source of every major river around Ireland, and that.
Oh, that's amazing. It's not just because I know that you'd also talked about wells, hadn't you? But I think that I've become much more aware of wells since I've come to live in Ireland than I have really in the UK. So yeah, I don't know whether you've got a story from a well or from these springs, which actually sounds fucking awesome. That must have been an amazing.
There's so many stories to tell you. It's actually too many.
Yeah, but the amazing thing about, and this brings back to what we still teach in the Wise Water program, is that at the source, you are the wellest, you are clear, you are clean, you are fresh, your very vital self. And it's because, we move down the river, and in life, we move through life and gather all these different things that shape us. It's kind of like we all have that source within us. We all still have that vitality within us. But crazily, we went to some of these sources. Like one that springs to mind is the Liffey, so the Dublin, and it was polluted. So much pollution in the area of the source. So like it's up a mountain, at the side of the Wicklow Mountains.
So many miles of Wicklow Moor land. It's like flowing just underneath this bridge, like in the middle of wilderness. And we got there, and like for each source, a different community came together. And when we arrived there were dead animals in bags, would you believe?
That had been
dumped there, as well as like a serious amount of plastic waste, even like a plastic Christmas tree. And this is like in the middle of nowhere, and we were like, how did this happen? But it was incredible because it went from like that to a
beautiful celebration. But I think that's really on reflection again of this kind of light and dark, and like how did everybody get attracted to this place, which is it's in the mountain at the source of wellness,
and the
that
source
be the place of like
the main river for our major power city, Dublin. And it's like it's so symbolic. And we found that with every source we went to, it gave us a picture of where humanity is at now and our disconnection. So like the source of the River Blackwater, which is the second major river it's Munster's Mama River, if you like. And it's just a stunning river. And at the very source, it was like the largest wind farm you could ever imagine. So like so now it's kind of cut off to people, but it's actually a walker's paradise, and it's all these heritage signs, and then you have these massive like warning 50,000 volts like around.
But then
the
you still have this beautiful spring coming out, still vital. So there's a lot to reflect on within that learning. But I know that we didn't go on a story there, but I suppose
that was a story.
But I definitely think meeting all the people we met, say, at the source, and on this whole journey with Wise Water and always speaking about water is, that's true about that essence of like each drop, each story being different, but how beautiful that when it comes together, we are all connected. And I think that's a message that Wise Water are very much, especially at this time of such disconnection in the world. Like every river will flow into another, there is no boundary, it's a beautiful thing to bring, multicultural classrooms now when we're going into, there is no boundaries. We all,
it's all one well.
It's all,
one well of water. And how we care for our singular drop is part of the whole water cycle. You know, it's an incredible, tangible thing. Yeah, we're changing the waters. We're breathing it in as we're breathing it out.
So I know that you engage with a lot of kids, and I think that that must be really interesting to see how they react to the sort of messaging, because in a way they are also sort of at that point of that vitality, the beginning of their life, the beginning of their journey. Because when I was younger, my dad designed sewage works. And so I had some very strange trips out with my dad where he'd take me to sewage works while he was collecting samples. And then he had mini sewage works in his laboratory, and they'd sort of look at all the different microbes that were cleaning the water and all kinds of weird and wonderful things. So I've got quite a high tolerance to really disgusting smells as a result of that. But one of the first little books that he gave me was about the water cycle. I was brought up as a river swimmer as well. When we went on holiday, we would be just in the rivers, so cold water and swimming in the sea as well. But rivers was where I started, and it did grasp me, that idea of that it's recycled. That's pretty cool. And then you kind of go, the water I'm drinking might have had someone's wee in it. But then you're like, well, several thousand people's wees in it, if we're absolutely honest. And then you look at the clouds and how it all goes up and how it's all this lovely cycle. Yes. And then also how
it cleanses itself and
So I just wonder how you find kids' reactions to this when you start talking about the cycle and this idea of everything being interconnected. Do you see differences in different parts of Ireland, or are all kids pretty much the same? Or do you see differences between how the kids react to the messaging and how maybe adults react to the messaging?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, again, this is why we come in with the whole we are water, and that's the connection, because obviously we're dealing with, children that may not go to the beach that much, that might not be around a river source. So we want the foundation to be, no matter what, you are carrying water within. We're all 70%. So that's always where our foundation, because it's a 6-week program to make sure that, we kind of build upon it. But the reactions are definitely, even that we do actually share, this water that you're drinking right now was once inside a dinosaur. And that's obviously the reactions are quite something. But what we're trying to bring as well is how we're a part of the water cycle. Because, we are in 5th and 6th class usually in schools, and they're learning this in geography, but in the boring diagram kind of way. So we are making that more alive, and that, again, it's a kind of to stop and reflect what we put into our water cycle, what we put in down our drains, what we are putting in our farms will eventually be a part of this water cycle, hence why we all have a responsibility to actually care for it. So that would be kind of it's a reflective moment for most children, actually. And then you have some children who would be more eco-aware, I suppose, than others, but we're always trying to make sure there's a hope piece as opposed to a fear of we're doomed. That's definitely not the message that we're sending, even though sometimes we might feel it. But, there's always what actions can we take? But I think the messaging of being connected is probably at the children's age, maybe it's natural for them a bit more than it would be an adult, whereas an adult would take that on board, that messaging of every river runs free, there is no boundaries. I think in our workshops there, that's something that it's almost it sits differently at an adult point than it would. Thankfully, we see mainly in most schools now, there's multicultural, that there's a lot of connection still there in general, I would say, anyway.
Can I ask as well, because I'm also not knowing the full detail of your workshops, but what's relatable, I think, as well, is that the story that you've just told about going to a source. If I think about the source as a person as well, if we are water, and what others have done to that water source is stick plastic Christmas trees in it and dead animals, etc., etc. Now, we don't tend to stick plastic Christmas trees in ourselves or dead animals, but we do fill up our source with a load of shit, and the other environments that we actually put ourselves into, and the habits that we form, or the ways that we talk about ourselves, and there's a build up of that as we become more adult than there is with children. And I'm just wondering, in both senses, that whilst we want to be educating to keep water cleansed, what were the things that you would be able to say for our audiences about what are the things that you can do to keep cleansing yourself, to keep the Christmas trees out of it and everything else?
Well, guess what? The first
Metaphorically.
answer is it's like be near or in water is a proven,
On the tap from the shower, just becoming aware of water and our relationship to it. But yes.
And the connection, because then if we are water and we're with water,
it's like
Bob's your uncle or your aunt.
Yeah, and it's like a reciprocal, our waters respond to the waters around us. So there is like the blue mind theory, which is...
Say more on that.
Yeah.
That sounds
so
great.
It's Dr. Wallace Nichols, and he's a marine biologist from California, and he came up with the amazing blue mind theory. The theory is being in or near water can keep you physically, mentally, and emotionally well. But the connection part of that as well is you're more connected to yourself and your environment. So I don't know if where you live, it was the same around COVID, that there was this surge of sea swimming, that suddenly the mad people who used to go swimming just on Christmas Day weren't mad anymore. They were actually really great. And there's just so many, thankfully, it became a thing that, people were realizing it was actually helping them to keep well. And that's not just because, we were bored around COVID and finding things. The research shows that, and it's cold water immersion especially, so even that being in cold water, how your body responds, you're instantly brought back into your body. Therefore, you're connected to your own physical self, and then you're aware of the environment around you in that moment and afterwards. But that blue mind theory is something we also bring to adults, and actually it's really apt for adults, because the opposite to a blue mind is a red mind. This is when we're in stressed, adrenalized state, when we're like, thinking too much, just stressed. I mean, this is something that it's good to have a red mind state if you're in times of danger, running away from a lion or whatever it might be. But we're in that now when we get an email, when we're, coming home with a million jobs to do. And that really can make us in a really unwell state. So it's about that whole idea of as simple as putting water on your face, recognizing when you're in a red mind state, can actually just bring you back into getting closer to a blue mind, where you're more steady. So simple actions like that would be water.
I love that, because that's not then sort of like saying to a leader who's having a nightmare in a board meeting, well, I can't do anything about this until I get in my car and drive 70 miles to the seaside. You can actually get into the toilet and splash water in your face. I love that.
One of Wallace Nichols, because he just passed recently, but one of his missions was to spread this to healthcare professionals, so to help them, because they're in such high adrenalized positions, and it's so important that they're kept well. So it's like, it's that instant reset that can help our whole nervous system.
I carry just a water spray with me, and I spray it on my face, one, because it's hydrating for your skin, but also there is something about it. I think we had this chat the last time that we saw each other, and we were talking a little bit about the blue mind. And I was saying, I'm going to Jerusalem and it's away from the water. And you had said to me, you can have a blue mind even without getting into the water. And, even sticking a beautiful picture of a water body as your screensaver, or as Bobby would say to me, well, actually, I think you also said it to me, if you've got a picture in your mind, you can just go there by recreating it. And for those people who hate cold showers, actually, again, are amazing, but not everyone is up for that. But you can do it for just 5 seconds at the end of your shower to get yourself.
It's so great to have a hot cold for our lymph and our body. And actually, I love that the analogy of like inside, because the way water has to keep moving, its nature is to move, otherwise it becomes stagnant. And we can look at ourselves as bodies of water, and it's amazing, like all our fascia and everything's interconnected with water. Like it's amazing looking at how water moves within our bodies. So like when we're moving, it's like you can see rivers. So like our lymph, our vessels and everything, it's like the rivers are moving. So like when we're doing a little bit of exercise, when we're sitting, we're like more like a lake. We're more like a pool. So to be aware that we're receptive and we're taking in all the time, because water is the most incredible receptive liquid, and it's how we are so receptive, how we can, like, we're always, our body is listening, if you like, even if our mind or we're not cognitive, it's aware of the environment around us.
I like what you just said about clothes as well, because that whole thing about what it feels like if it's restrictive versus wearing something that's actually moving, the connectivity of that, I'd never thought of that before.
Yes.
I'm also slightly concerned, and try not to be, about this spray bottle that the bridge has got, because I can just see it now, and me getting irritated with something in London when we see each other next month, and her spraying it in my face. I'm just giving you ideas now, aren't I, my love?
Well, I mean, you've got water pistols for cats, but when they're being badly behaved. So I would use that analogy for you, Bobby. But actually, especially when it's warm, it's actually very refreshing just to spray it on your face, and you get this immediate sense of relief. And weirdly, my male colleagues, and I keep offering them, and they're like, no, it's all right, thanks, because apparently it's a bit girly. But
I'm surprised that you don't just do it, because that would be the bridge that I know and love, of just every now and again just looking at somebody who's irritating you and just going
No, because it's supposed to be a nice thing.
Oh,
I don't want to train them to think that water's a bad thing. I ask them and I say, this is a really nice thing. But I did take your advice, Katie, to have a water body as my screensaver. And I kind of wonder about when you start to become more aware of water. I think because also water is something we share, right? We have to share it. We share rivers. It's not just us. The water's not just there for us. It's there for the plants. It's there for the trees. It's there for the animals. And I think certainly what I've noticed is that people who actively engage with water, so swimmers, surfers, fishermen, fishing people, I don't know what the non-gendered term for fish. Anyway, all start to, become aware of the fact that this is a limited resource. This is something that we all need, but we all have to share it, and therefore we do have to look after it. It benefits us, but it also benefits others and other things, and we have to look after it. And so I think it is important. The more we think about it, the more we connect to it, then the more we look after it.
100%.
Exactly.
We always say that.
It's a growing awareness that we have of it,
And if you don't have a relationship with something, you're not going to care for it. I mean, that's just a natural.
Yeah.
And that's definitely what Wise Water is about. It's not about, like we said, going in about the doom. It's like, let's make this fun. Let's make this celebrating.
Let's be curious.
Let's be curious. Let's
this amazing liquid.
Get a connection going, any connection. And that's why, like, if we keep reflecting it back to we are water, then anybody has that connection right there. So we keep on, like, a lot of our activities, our experiments would, like, show the magic of water. And then you're like, oh, that's you too. So you're back and forth all the time learning, like, say
about our behavior, water's behavior. It's like, okay, wow, direct correlation.
Water becomes the teacher very much, and it really can, but like you were saying there, Bridge, is definitely that awareness, and that can really connect people to their environment. Therefore, we can care for it a bit more. So I think that in there is the key to our sustainable future, our ensuring that we're actually caring for the environment and each other, and it's connection. It really is connection.
And I was just thinking about braiding sweetgrass when we were talking about that earlier, and how, such a simple way of connecting to water is to be grateful for it, or to be thankful for it. Yeah. And that's the reciprocal nature then, so it's almost like an instant connection for you having a glass of water. Wow, grateful. So, and how important that is, because then those little moments where we say thank you, for whatever, for a warm shower. I'm really appreciating warm showers. See, this has gone really.
Yeah.
And it's like, gosh, it's such a privilege to have a warm shower, and then we value, that's it, valuing the simple things instead of all of this, we've become, especially in the Western world, so enamored with glitzy glam or whatever, all of the distractions that are pushed and within our field. That's it. These simple things are extraordinary. They're actually magical,
being grateful for water is something that I have been experiencing quite a lot recently. And so when I've been in Gaza, certainly, the idea of clean, drinkable water has been, hard. And for me, being able to leave and then come back and realize that I'm actually dehydrated because the process of having to boil your water, purify it, and it is a precious resource, and so you're not wasting it. And every liter that you drink, you're like, I need to drink water, but it's not easy to find clean water. And then obviously realizing that you're in this privileged position because you're working with an international organization, that actually you have more access than other people. And so, there's been a lot of that coming out of Gaza, and just going and drinking cold, fresh water and be able to just down a whole liter of it and go, I could get another one, it's a really, 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 really strong lesson to those of us who are lucky enough to be able to waste water.
Yes.
I think the gratitude thing as well, because Bridget and I have talked about this on other episodes as well, but I think if you can be building a habit around gratitude to water or to, well, we could start with water. One of the things that we were saying about the wheel of life is that wherever you start, and here we are talking about the environment, water, and how that then connects to other segments. And if we then add gratitude into that, and that as ourselves, what difference that actually makes. And I think that without gratitude, what I was going to say, because there's so much that we're talking about, which is about connection. All of that glitz that you mentioned, Katie, is the things that actually help us get disconnected. We forget what's important. So you're bringing yourselves back into that space. And so I'm then wondering, with the groups that you're actually working with, maybe some of the snippets that you actually find that when they get back into that mode of something that they can get their hands around, be it a tap or a bottle of water or whatever it is, what that actually does for themselves, but then in the case of relationship, or how they are with things that they may well have arrived and been very disconnected with, be that children or adults, and then what they're actually getting into more connection with, as well as their environment as a result.
Each other as well. Definitely. And that's what we say, it's like yourself, each other, and the environment. Actually, there's an incredible group called Protect Blue, and they're an organization that are now bringing in the UN Ocean Conference, right? And they've recognized that conference, all these water people sitting down about how we need to, take care of water, but we're sitting down looking at a screen, we're all feeling a bit disconnected. So they bring people out for a stand-up paddleboard or whatever it might be, wherever they are. And that is where the connections happen. And they said it's incredible. So you have the CEOs and the activists all out in the lineup, are all out, and everybody's equal and at the same point. And there's connections that are happening to each other. So water has the ability to suddenly make us all equal, I think, on the equal playing field, so that's like, it's a beautiful thing that if we could all start with like learning that from water, we're all connected, and then you're connected to yourself as well, which I think is a very important part of being connected to each other and the environment. You need to be in tune with your own waters and your own self as well, so
and I think that becomes chicken and egg, doesn't it? Because if you are I know in water, but also in finding, we talked about finding your tribe, but sometimes in the finding of the tribe, you begin to find yourself, because suddenly you don't feel so alone anymore, or there are people like me. So that I think having something which is a leveler, and in this case water and the environment, so that everyone can be the same like that. I think that sometimes that you make the connections with others first, and then you can get deeper into yourself, and other times it can be the healing of self that actually opens you up to the people that you should be around.
Yes, definitely. And social connection on that wheel is, I think, only more and more research at the moment is including social connection as part of full wellness and full well-being. And it's essential.
And the environment is beginning to
make its way.
It's like, we are influenced by the health of our environment.
Yeah.
And
without it, we don't exist. So we keep on, I keep on putting that one on my 17-year-old daughter, when it's like, but this and this is important. I'm like, well, without water or without the environment, we can't even get to that list.
They've actually just put in a new, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And they just put a new foundational block at the bottom the planet. You know, and then
Thank the Lord.
and
Go figure.
we are on the planet,
Yeah.
and it gives us everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we mentioned dinosaurs, and look what happened to them. So yes.
I don't know if they had AI. I wonder.
Before we sort of round it up, I just wanted to just bring in another colour, which is green. And obviously, the green that we have also doesn't exist without the blue, right? But also, there's huge amounts of research in terms of how green and plants and trees are fundamental to our mental health as well. You know, I talked about forest bathing before, and I was introduced to that in Ireland by an amazing woman in Bandon, actually. And I loved it, sort of this whole idea. Everyone thought I was going to get naked and wander around the wood, but actually you can keep your
She
clothes
did.
on. Just no, that was in a younger life. But you know, now nobody wants to see my menopausal body wandering around, scaring the wildlife. So I kept my clothes on, just for everyone. Forest bathing, you can keep your clothes on. But it was a really, really incredible, it was something I hadn't thought about. And then I looked a little bit into it. And there's a lot of research that plant phenols, or the chemicals that are released by leaves and trees, actually have got all kinds of healing elements. And they're looking at whether or not some of it can cancer curing, etc. I'm just a bit worried that they'll start chopping down trees just to cure cancer. I hope they don't do that. So if you don't have a body of water, even going into a forest, you're connecting with water.
My goodness.
And you only have to look at Ireland, how green it is because of how much rain there is. And green is also a colour that I find I miss, like it being in a dry place. And so green and blue are two colours that if I can fill my brain with green and blue, then I can feel my body changing, and the redness that I often experience in my work sort of just dissipates. So I just wondered if you wanted to talk about green as well.
Oh, it's so interconnected. It's incredible. I mean, you know, like the water is in relationship. You know, water is in relationship with everything. You know, it's not separate from all plant life, all animal life, all human life. It's an interchange constantly. And like you're saying, like those biomes and the microbes that are coming from the trees, it's actually part of the whole water cycle. You know, that the trees provide a huge amount of our water cycle. You know, they're drawing up the water and transpiring just as all the animals and all the plants are. So yeah, it's really lovely to bring in that, you know, because that's something that we bring to the kids as well, is how important all plant life is, in the trees especially.
For the water cycle, and how much they are needed, you know, and how much they transpire, liters and liters of water. And again, yeah, that relationship is. But I think a lot of people probably, you know, there's kind of your three people. There's the people who maybe are more attracted to the green than the blue. I'm definitely a blue for sure. But I, like that, they are, you know, a forest is a forest, or a woodland is a woodland because of the water. So it is, I think, that idea again, doesn't it bring you back into yourself, into your environment? It's doing that same nature connection. And it's like, I think in that wheel of wellness, nature connection, you know, can tick a lot of boxes. It can help you. It's the connection to self, each other, and the environment.
And a lovely thing as well that's coming to me is that our eyes are like 98% water. And so like, instead of like looking out of the world, we can receive the environment around us. And green is actually so good for our eyes. It actually softens everything. So like what you're saying, Bridget, like being over in Jerusalem, and we've experienced it in Morocco just recently, where it's just so yellow and so parched, and then you come home and you're into this greenness, and it's
soothing, definitely.
Softens. But yeah, that idea of the receptive nature, I think, is a really wonderful property of water for us to recognize, that we really are like in communication with the field all the time. Our body's receiving signals, and when we're bathing, forest bathing and things like that, it's our whole body is receiving all of those messages.
I was just going to state the blindingly obvious, but forest bathing is called bathing for a reason, clearly.
Yes.
From that element as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, just thinking out loud there. Sorry about that.
We are absolutely now at the time we have to wrap up, because I know that what you could learn from your younger self, if you've got any wise words that you think that you should maybe remember from your younger self before we move on to the end of this session.
Yeah, so todos posible, nada seguro. When I lived in South America, everybody was saying this, and it's something I lived on way more before, less now, which means everything is possible, nothing is safe. And for me, that used to drive me forward and just go without fear, without anything. So I'm going to try and embody that one a bit more. I've left it behind in responsibility world a bit much, but it's like even us in business, that's something I need to remember, and on our mission for the water, Todos posible, nada seguro.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, isn't it brilliant?
Yeah.
It isn't as cool as that now. Well, my inner child wasn't very cool. I think I'm becoming more and more in touch with actually that child part of me the older I get, because I became a mum very young. And so I had to grow up very young. And as they're getting older, like I'm getting younger in a way. I mean, as I feel like those responsibilities are lifting, and I'm realizing, that part of me that felt so like communicated really with nature. That part that before I started to feel like that was abnormal, there was just a very natural part of me that felt loved by nature and loved it back. And that's coming back to me more and more, and that's lovely. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
I have another quote.
Okay, we've got the quote.
I have got another one. I'll be really quick. And I hope it doesn't feel too restrictive, because it is very specifically about salt water, but it's still about water. And it's by Isaac Dinesen, who said, "The cure for anything is salt water, sweat, tears, or the sea."
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Nice one.
Thank you. Ding, ding, ding. Thank you so much, both of you. Lovely to see you.
So thank you for coming.
It's lovely.
That was amazing.
It's good for us to have a
Yeah.
moment. This is actually really good for us to sit down and have a moment of reflection as well.
Reflection's an amazing property of water.
Yes.
That's a much better quote to end on.
It sure is. Oh, thank you so much, and wishing you both waves of wellness, and thank you.
Thank you. It was amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Thank
good
you.
luck in
You take care.
Jerusalem as well.
Thank you.
Sending you, the energy
Thank you.
there. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you both.
Bye.
So that's where we'll leave today's conversation, with the reminder that environment isn't just where we are, it's what we breathe, touch and absorb. When we choose surroundings that support rather than stress us, we give ourselves permission to thrive. As we move around the wheel this season, you'll be hearing from more brilliant guests, sharing their stories, insights and practical ways to bring balance into our lives. For now, thank you for listening to More Than a Lumpy Jumper. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share it with someone who might need a dose of calm or clarity, and take a moment to step outside, breathe in the space around you, and hopefully get wet. And join us next week for Being on Purpose, where we'll be joined by Sylvia Risi from Co-Create Humanity, exploring the career and vocation segment. You don't want to miss it. Until then, bye.